adding and subtracting integers. Here we're going to look at how, well, having a negative sign can sometimes make you doubt yourself a little bit when you're adding numbers together, but hopefully we can get past that and just be really quick about adding these without thinking about it. So the first example that we could look at would be adding numbers like 3 plus 5. Well, most of us know that that's going to be 8. Two positive numbers, we don't have to think about it too much. But what happens if we have negative 3 and 6? Well, a couple ways to think about this is to imagine your number line, which we have here, and start at that first number. So we'll start at negative 3, and then we're going to add 6 onto it. Well, plussing 6, that's positive direction, so we're going to add 6 onto that number. So we can go up the first 1, 2, 3 spots to 0, and then 4, 5, 6 spots to 3. So we've gone a total distance of 6 in the positive direction. So from negative 3 plus 6, we get up to positive 3. And you can imagine that we're starting in the negative, so we have to use up some of that 6 just to get to 0, and then whatever's left will carry over into the positive numbers. So again, looking at another example of 2 plus 4, you can use the number line in the same way if you felt like it, if you needed to, knowing that there's starting at 2, and we'll go up a positive 4, which takes us to 6. So 2 plus 4 is 6. And again, two positive numbers, not too confusing. But what happens again here if we have a negative number, like negative 10 plus 14? So you can imagine to yourself, I'm going to start at negative 10. Again, starting at the negative number here, because it's the first number. And I know that I'm going to add on 14, so that's going into the positive direction. It's a positive 14, and if you can visualize that, adding on 14, that's going to take us, well, quite a long ways. Just to get to 0, we're going to use up 10 out of that 14, and then how many are left? Well, we still have to get 11, 12, 13, 14 spots. So going up a total of positive 14 takes us all the way from negative 10 up to 4. Again, the first 10 numbers out of that 14 just undo the negative 10. They take us from negative 10 up to the 0. And then there's just the 4 numbers left over that take us to the positive 14. Or sorry, to the positive 4. So let's take a look at another example again. I might tidy up the board a little bit so that we can see clearly again. So here's another example of doing a negative plus a positive number. So starting at negative 4, I need to use a plus 3 to move us in the positive direction to the right. But we'll notice here, if we go up 3, 1, 2, 3, that's not enough to get us out of the negative, to get us out of this cold area down here where we're missing things in a way. So to get from negative 4 up to 0, we would need 4, and we've only got 3 to add on here, so that only gets us to negative 1. So it's not enough to get us over into the positive side. Looking at another example similar to that, we can start at negative 6. And here I'm going to try to add positive 2 to that. So again, going to the right direction because it's a positive number. If I try to add on 2, well, that only gets us up to negative 4. So adding on 2 will only get you up to negative 4 if you're starting at negative 6. Again, we would need 6 positives to get us all the way up to 0, and 2 is not enough to get us into the positive. So negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. And you can remember that, thinking about that, adding a positive number always moves to the right on the number line. You're always moving in the positive direction. And similarly, it's not so complicated for us if we're just subtracting a positive number. So here we're going to subtract the positive number. Starting at a positive 1, like 7, we're going to take away 6. And if you're taking away, well, you're going to be moving in the minus direction. So that's kind of like saying, well, I'm at 7, but I'm going to take away 6. I'm going to take 6 back. And that gets us down, if we take away 6, down to 1. So we can use that same principle here. Starting at a negative number this time, at negative 3, I need to take away 2. So negative 3 taking away 2 gets us down to negative 5. And you'll notice, well, we'll look at that pattern as it shows up again, but let's try another one. So negative 8, starting at negative 8, and we're going to take away 3. So again, moving in the negative direction, a distance of 3, we will get to negative 11. And looking at another one here, starting at negative 4, we need to take away 3. So visualize what that's going to do. Starting at negative 4, I'm going to take away 3, and I'll end up at negative 7. So I'm not sure if you've noticed this pattern yet, but if both the numbers you're dealing with have a negative or just a minus sign in front of them, like these guys do, negative 3 minus 2, negative 4 minus 3, well, if you kind of pay attention, what's happened here is, well, 3 and 2 makes 5, and since these are both negative numbers, it makes a negative 5 because it's moving everything in the negative direction. I'm already negative 3, so I'm already 3 below 0, and I'm just going to go 2 more, so that's a total of 5. You can think about kind of putting those two numbers together like you would add them if they're both negative, but you leave the negative sign there. So that same thing happened here. Negative 8 and negative 3, both negative. Kind of like just adding the negatives together, you get negative 11, just like positive 8 and positive 3 would give you positive 11. And here, negative 4 and negative 3 is going to be equal to negative 7. Kind of similar to how positive 4 and positive 3 would equal positive 7. So let's look at what happens when we do this with numbers that cross between the positive and negative. So if we start with a positive number like 5 and take away 10, we're going to start at 5, and because we're taking away 10, thinking about moving in the negative direction. Well, my first 5 out of that 10 only get me to 0, and then I have to go 5 more. So if I go negative 10 from 5, I get all the way down to negative 5. And 7 minus 11, here starting at 7, same idea, I'm taking away 11, so I need to go in the negative direction. So I'm going to use up the first 7 of those 11 to get me to 0, and then I'm still going to have 4 left over to get a total distance of negative 11 from the 7, and that will get me to negative 4. And if you check that out again, you can kind of imagine this. 7 and 4, in terms of distances, add up to 11. So we've gone a total of 11 from 7 down to negative 4, so the total distance there is 7 and 4, giving us 11 in the negative direction from 7 down to negative 4.